if you remember back in Chapter 5, Fortnite released one of their biggest updates ever, which was their whole idea that they've been working on, which was called the Metaverse, and it's a term that's been really annoying for people because they just hate the term of that, I guess, but I understand why, because it just gets kind of annoying and it feels like corporate slop, but I still think it's a very cool idea. And the whole thing that they brought was multiple different game modes in one game that you can play. It's basically like a platform. You can sort of think of it, I guess, like Roblox now, where Fortnite's basically kind of like Roblox, where you can play different creative maps and then also epic maps that they or epic game modes that they've made, which is like now Fortnite Festival, Lego Fortnite, Rocket Racing, other ones that released later on that you could say are part of the metaverse, but you don't have to, like Chapter OG, Blitz Royale, and before what was it? I think before Chapter 5 or during Chapter 5, I don't know. They also released Reload. Reload is basically just like Resurgence from Call of Duty, and Blitz Royale is kind of similar to that, a small map, but the storm is really fast, and you have different loot pools, and also some collaborated items or collab items. Like recently, there it is possible that we'll have the anime mythics, which would be really cool and very fun, and also last week with the Avatar ones, which again is cool. But now, when we're in Chapter 6, you'll know that the player counts or just the popularity, I guess, of these other game modes like Lego Fortnite, Rocket Racing, and Fortnite Festival has died down, and I understand why. But I feel like one that I want to specifically talk about, I will still talk about the other ones, is Rocket Racing because I feel like Rocket Racing was such a preventable like way or a preventable game to like not die. They could have easily had this game actually be really popular, at least reach the tens of thousands. Maybe I'm stretching that, or at least have more than 8,000, 9,000 players, maybe even more, because the whole idea with Rocket Racing and when it was being teased, it was sort of being teased that it was going to be similar to Mario Kart, which, Mario Kart is a very, beloved game and it's very fun and very competitive. We all know how annoying it could be, especially when playing with your friends. It's very fun. And with Fortnite, it could be even more better, or maybe not better, but, as good, or maybe a little less good than Mario Kart, but still decent to play. Something maybe with like Sonic Racing, something like that. Um, and people, when they heard that, they were very excited with that idea. But then at launch, sure, people were having fun. It was fun. There were problems with it as well, but it was still fun. But then later on, it just sort of started dying down really fast because that's all it really was. It's just racing. And there's no problem with racing games. I still like racing games, games that I've played, like Need for Speed or Need for Speed. There's other games, but that just up at the top of my head is Need for Speed. Those kinds of racing games. And with the things that they add later on, they add collaborated vehicles, from different vehicle companies. They've added Ferrari, surprisingly. They've added Porsche. They've added Nissan Skyline GTR, multiple different vehicles. Some coming from Rocket League, and just some coming from actual branded cars, which is cool. But that's really all it's going for with, I guess, Rocket Racing, and not the actual game mode itself. Because not too long after, I think less than a year, they announced that they're just going to stop making any event games or event seasons or whatever for Rocket Racing, which is so annoying because of course when that happens, and that was like the last thing that could actually keep the game alive or maybe bring more players back, and they just announce that they're going to stop doing that, of course the game is going to die really fast. And now with Rocket Racing, the minimum amount of players that you'll reach or you'll see is always between 1.2 thousand to 2,000, which is not the worst. Well, it's still kind of bad, but obviously not completely dead, I guess. And it's so annoying because it could have easily been prevented from dying if they just made that whole idea. And don't even bother saying that it probably would have been too difficult to do. And they very well could have made this idea later on. They didn't just have to give up on this game mode. And they could have made this idea because they've done something similar years ago, back in like 2018, I'm not sure, maybe 2019, back in chapter 1, where they released Air Royale, a pretty similar sort of idea where you're just driving or flying around with planes and different sort of weaponized or weapons that you can shoot at other enemies and just, compete and see who's the last one standing. They could have easily done that same idea but with rocket racing. And they could have done it later on, maybe just release a regular racing mode itself, and then later on have an option where you can have weapons in it and just cool boosts, things that maybe have a similar idea to Mario Kart, just not completely copying everything. And they have the sort of assets they can use, or just the creative ideas they can use from when they've had, I don't know, previous things from different seasons. They could have had that chance. And also just using maybe the same weapons from Air Royale, just implemented into vehicles. So this idea would have at least maximum maybe 10,000 players at least, so it could have at least averaged around with Fortnite Festival. And I probably would actually be playing the game mode and would actually have fun and not be bored all the time. Not to mention, I feel like the tracks are not very, exciting or entertaining. They're just regular race tracks. I understand that. It's rocket racing. It's not like, I guess you could say it's not what it was going for, but they really should have gone for that as well. And they could have, again, gone for that later on and released more creative and actually more interesting tracks as well. And I think you can actually make your own tracks, but again, there's not really a wide variety of ideas you can come up with because of how limited it is when making tracks for rocket racing. I'm not sure if you can do that, feel free to correct me on that. But again, the whole idea of rocket racing being similar to Mario Kart, but just, Fortnite's whole ideas would have been really fun. It's been a thing that's happened for many other games, just like Sonic, where they just made a racing, and not of course soon in, I don't know, this month, I'm not sure, that they're releasing the Sonic Racing and having many collaborated characters like SpongeBob, Hatsune Miku, or the guy from Yakuza, if I recall. Really fucking cool. But no, there's nothing like that for rocket racing, so of course it was bound to die. And it was such a shame because, again, like I said, it was such a preventable game mode to die. Like, you could have easily prevented it from dying, but no, they just let it die. They just completely gave up on it just because they did. I don't understand why. And that's also annoying with the newer or with the other game modes as well, because it feels like they're just gonna start giving up on that as well. Like, sooner or later, they might just move on from Lego Fortnite and Fortnite Festival. Even if you don't think so, and even if you think, Fortnite Festival is really good. Of course, I love Fortnite Festival. I think it's one of the best game modes they've ever released. But it is possible that they are gonna move on from that game mode as well, and just continue working on like the Battle Royale sort of style game modes. And cool, if people like that, I understand. But I hate it that they just completely give up or just don't use the creative ideas that people can come up with in the developing team because they just don't want to, or maybe just don't want to risk it, I guess. I don't know. Or don't want to waste money, because taking risks can be valuable or can be really risky as well. It could maybe not be worth it, but if it means bringing more players and playing that game mode, of course it's a good idea, or at least it's a good chance or a reason for you to maybe take that risk, if I'm making sense. With Lego Fortnite, I feel like there's a lot of problems. It's a good step in the right direction, but there's still a lot of problems. Example with building. The building system is pretty clunky and kind of annoying to actually build with, and just has a lot of problems, but also just building overall, because you're so limited on actually being able to build things unless you actually buy the battle pass, or the Lego pass, my bad. And having to result in buying the Lego pass to get more content in the game and not actually having multiple things you could build with, like different materials for walls or floors that aren't ugly as shit, that look like shitty huts. Being able to have those, I guess, things available to your game or whatever, just being available to you, is good because it adds more ideas that you can do to make in Lego Fortnite. Like, again, with Minecraft. I'm not saying that they should be adding a lot of things like what they did with Minecraft, but just adding more materials or just more creative things, like just materials of just building overall. Because having to result in only being able to get content or just being able to make content by buying the Lego Pass is so shitty and just so ass, because it just limits the potential it has for this game to be great. Because building is of course important to a survival game like Lego Fortnite, because it can be fun, and being able to make different things with these materials or just what's available to you already is good. It's done that. It's been like that maybe with Fallout, with Ark, with Raft. Having this available to you is good to bring players in who love building, not just exploring, not just mining, who also like building. Because building can be very fun, especially if you have very creative ideas. And with Lego Fortnite, especially with Lego, they have those chances. But it doesn't feel like they're taking those chances. Like they're just leaving us in the dark, or just leaving us hanging, if that makes sense. And then I feel like with the exploration, it does get very tame, and there is some endgame content, which I recall it's the Storm King, but I also feel like they should be adding more other things like small mini bosses, or just small little bosses, if that makes sense. Like again, like I guess the brutes or something like that, just things that can get in your way, similar to like again in Minecraft or just in other games, when those small mini bosses can be a problem, but they can also be very rewarding when you're fighting them. And I guess the mini bosses that you say count in Lego Fortnite aren't exciting to fight, because even if you do end up fighting them or beating them, the reward is just not worth it really. You probably get like what, a fucking shell or something, I'm not sure. But it just doesn't feel rewarding, and that's another thing as well. Sometimes when you're just playing the game, it can be fun to like gather resources, mining, building, but also it doesn't feel rewarding when you're getting, if it makes sense, rare materials or just things like that that feel exciting to get. Example again. I know I keep bringing it up. It's not similar, or it's similar, but not everything's the same with Minecraft, and they don't have to do everything like Minecraft. But again, something similar with just like Minecraft, being able to have that excitement when you're getting diamonds, when you're getting netherite, when you're getting rare discs, or maybe rare weapons. That is very exciting, especially if it can be in something like Fortnite or Lego Fortnite. Of course, that will have people get very excited when they finally get something that's actually really rare and good. And the rewards that you find here randomly in this game, it's just not very exciting when you get them. They're just like, oh, okay, I guess this can be useful for one fucking thing, and that's it. And I feel like the exploration again should also be a little more improved, because you're kind of course, I'm not saying that it should stoop to the level of Minecraft, but it's so limited with exploration, because when you're exploring different biomes, it's always the same exact thing. I'm not even joking. It's always the same thing. You'll always find the grasslands, maybe some ruined houses that have a chest, and then you go to the desert, you'll find again some ruined houses, maybe some loot in a chest, and then you go on to the winter place, or the snow, my bad, the same thing, ruined houses and a chest. And I feel like the only time it's very rewarding is when you're going to the snow, and that's it. And that's basically all the biomes, if I recall. Actually, no, I think there's like some biomes like for the beach or something like that. I think that's pretty good as well. But again, with adding more biomes can be very cool, because many of the times when you see people playing Minecraft or something like that, they love the scenery of creative biomes. And with that idea in Lego Fortnite, I'm sure it can be very cool as well. And they have, again, those chances, but they're not taking those chances because it's so limited on what you can even do in that game. Unless you're buying the Lego Pass. It's not even really free to play if the only time you're actually getting something new, or, being able to make new content, is if you're actually paying for the Lego Pass. And honestly, I feel like the Lego Pass is not even fucking good overall. Anytime I even get anything from the Lego Pass, the only time it's worth it is if you're just getting the skin of it, and that's it. Nothing else feels rewarding when you're using it. And because of that, and because of the path with Lego Fortnite, and how it feels like the updates, even if they're not as, or they don't have to be big updates, I feel like it would still be good if they add consistent small little updates to improve the quality of life and just make it fun to explore as well. Now, the problems with Fortnite Festival are the lack of features or the things that they just fucked up on. For example, they haven't added the features of pro instruments, or at least for pro vocals and pro drums. I don't know how pro vocals would work, but pro drums would make sense because pro, is very interesting and can be challenging, and people like it when they get a challenge, especially with drums. We all know how difficult it is to play drums, the specific, instrument when you're playing Fortnite Festival. So having it be pro drums, that is very interesting and would be very fun for people. I don't know about pro vocals. I know it may be a cool idea, but I don't know how that would work, honestly. And another thing is the song availability. Like, I don't know why they changed that. So now they made it so it's a rotating system where you can't buy the songs whenever you want or whatever song you want whenever you want, because they removed that for a rotating system. So now every week it's like 20 different songs, and that's it for the whole week. Those are the same songs that you'll be listening to for the whole week, and then they move on to the next week, which will rotate the songs available, and that creates, as many people know, the fear of missing out, which is fucking dog shit. It should not belong in a game like Fortnite Festival. Imagine if they did something like that with Guitar Hero. Do you know how fast that game would die? Because it doesn't make sense, because the whole point of Guitar Hero is so you can play songs with, I guess, playing notes of an instrument and their songs, and they just remove the whole content of that and limiting it for a whole week, or limiting it to like just less than 20 songs for the week, and then eventually rotating it, I guess. But then that's also another problem where there's times when the whole week or the songs for the whole week are complete dog shit that no one wants to play the game with at all because the songs suck ass. And because of that, I don't understand. The only reason that they would do that is so they can make money. And creating the fear of missing out says, oh shit, oh fuck, the song that I really like is available right now. I could be able to play it for free, but I don't know if I should buy it right now because it says it's going to leave today, and I don't know how long it's going to take until that song is going to be available. So I don't know, man. I don't know. What do I do? Do I buy it or not? That's the only reason that they made that system, to make more money. And that's just scummy as hell. It really is. It removes content from the game to make a quick buck. It doesn't make it fun for the community. It just makes it so they're removing content so they can make as much money from the people, or from the limited amount of people. And because of that, there will be less and less players playing that game, or playing the game mode, until maybe there's at least one decent song or two, and maybe play those songs and then just move on until the next week. And another thing as well is the reliance on really easy songs, or just songs that I guess are trending. Because relying on this is not good either way, since people like it. At least for me, I like it when there is a challenge with these songs. For example, when they added their Somp, the song Somp, in the Billie Eilish season, that song was very fun because it was challenging and very catchy. So it was really good when they added that song. It made me feel like it motivated me to play the game and improve and beat the game, and or beat the song and get gold stars on it, and maybe even get 100% on it. And then when they added Beyond the Flame for the Metallica season, even better, because it was Epic Games' version of Through the Fire and Flames, and that was even harder and more fun to play because of how challenging it was to hit those notes. It was complicated at first, but it felt very satisfying when you were destroying the song and actually having a lot of fun with it. And now with the usual songs right now, it's just been really simple garbage, or I guess mediocre songs. If you like them, I'm not saying that's a problem. If you like them, that's cool. I'm happy for you. I'm just saying that them relying so much on just adding some simplistic or just boring and trending songs will not make it any better for this game to stay alive. And another thing, no, actually before that, I also want to mention as well, Through the Fire and Flames. Of course, everyone talked about that because Through the Fire and Flames has always been known as one of the hardest songs of all time, especially with something like Guitar Hero. It was extremely hard and very fucking fun to play, because it was insane how you would see all these notes playing and you would think, how can a human actually play all these notes? And when they added it to Fortnite Festival, that was insane, especially because it was free. That was one of the best things that they've ever done for Fortnite Festival, making Through the Fire and Flames completely free. I gotta give them props for that because that was actually fucking cool of them. They couldn't have, or they didn't have to do that, but they did. But it was for an event where it was pretty easy to do. You just need to complete some event and you would get the song. And that was very cool of them to do. That was like one of the very few moments where they actually made a really good decision and at least brought a lot of people back to play that song. And moving on to another one is the lack of practice mode. I feel like the lack of practice mode is really stupid because it makes no sense. I feel like with practice mode, it would only benefit the player base as well, not just Epic Games. It would benefit them because at least they have a feature where they can play a song and maybe play a specific part of the song where it's very challenging and practice and improve so they can keep enjoying that song and push their limits as well. I feel like that's a win-win for Epic and for the community because it feels like Epic is actually listening to the players and they delivered it really well. Even if it maybe have problems, at least they're delivering and listening to the community and showing, hey guys, we actually give a fuck about you. I just want to say something before I move on that I feel like I should have explained more better of the adding, more difficult songs. Is I know I kind of made it sound like it's bad that they're adding trendy songs, and that's my fault. I'm not really trying to imply that. My bad. I'm trying to say that they can add those things, but they don't have to just rely on that because it's just trendy. Because eventually, trends, especially maybe like trend songs or just really popular radio songs, kind of die out and just aren't really as popular. And because of that, I feel like the popularity of that song, even if people still play or listen to it a lot, is not really as exciting, especially when the song is just really easy to complete. I feel like difficulty can be very important. One example I want to mention is Metallica. Metallica was by far the best season of all time. It really was. It had 4 band members. The season pass was very valuable. It really was. 4 skins and really good instruments and good songs in one festival pass. And the songs were good. The skins were good. Everything about it was good. It was themed so well with Metallica. And the songs were also very difficult. And I can't even lie. Like, there's no lying about this. It had the most concurrent players of all time from any Fortnite festival pass. Even if I want to say that Miku was like really good as well, it can't compete with how well Metallica was. It really can't. Hatsune Miku did have a lot of players listening or playing in that season, but again, not compared to Metallica. Because Metallica had everything. It had really good songs. It had really good skins. The Festival Pass was perfect for everything. And the difficulty was there. It was so good because there were so many songs, because Metallica is known for being very difficult to play. Those songs were available to you and in large quantities because you were able to play songs like Seek and Destroy, Ride the Lightning, One, Lux Eterna, Master of Puppets, Battery. Many songs like that were very difficult but really fun to play. I will admit, no matter what, Metallica will by far be the best Fortnite Festival Pass of all time. No other Festival Pass has at all been able to compare to Metallica. None. Even if I'm sort of biased with Hatsune Miku, it cannot compare at all. It really can't. And that's why I feel like it's fine that they add trendy songs, maybe like TikTok or radio songs. It's fine, but it doesn't, like, it's not really good for a wide variety of players. It's really just specific amount of players that like, I guess, easy songs or just like the song overall, and not for people that enjoy some challenge with it as well. Because I feel like with Metallica, it included all of that: a difficulty, a challenge, and just good songs, if that makes sense. That's what I'm trying to imply. Because of the change of not having to play whatever game mode it is to complete that pass, for example, you don't have to play Fortnite Festival anymore to finish the festival pass. That again also affected the incentive to even bother playing the game mode. Especially because they haven't added the basic functions of a rhythm game, or like the good features of it, or just because there's still a lot of problems they haven't even bothered to fix. And Another thing that I just don't understand why they removed is wristband quests. I don't understand why they removed that. That was just another reason people don't want to play that anymore, because wristband quests actually were kind of challenging to do, because you were actually getting something really cool. You were actually getting instruments and having a reason to even fucking play the game, because getting those instruments were rewarding and most of the time were really cool to have, because who wouldn't want instruments? It's really fucking cool to have instruments, especially when maybe they could be themed from whatever season it is. Like for example, the theme of Metallica, having one of the band members guitar and bass, that was fucking sick. It really was. I don't understand why they removed the wristband quests, and I guess maybe in replacement for the prestige quests, when the prestige quests aren't even rewarding even when you do them. The best you get is like maybe 5,000 XP, 1,000 XP, I don't know. You barely get anything from challenges that are considered hard or are like the prestige level. And again, is another reason on why you don't even need to bother playing Fortnite Festival. Really, there isn't a reason to play it, and they've removed the reasons to play it, or just haven't added anything to give a reason to fucking play it. I really didn't want to make this video, and it's not like this video is going to make any difference to, I guess, the impact of these games, but I just at least want to say something, because I genuinely do like these game modes, and I don't think that they were just like a waste of time and money, like many people say, because they just hate the game modes. I feel like they have a lot of potential, but they're just not doing anything with that potential. They're not actually using that potential to make this game even, or make these games even more fun. There's many easy ways that they can make it more interesting that's provided from their community. And I understand. I understand that, you know, Epic Games just sometimes doesn't even listen to the community, because their community is very toxic and very spoiled and very fucking annoying. I understand that. Which community isn't fucking annoying at this point, honestly? But I get what they're coming from. But there are still a lot of people out there that genuinely want to give constructive criticism because they enjoy that game and want to become even better than it ever was. That's their intent at times, when they actually have good reasons to dislike it or have good reasons to what they can improve on. Of course, it's important to listen to their criticism and use it to better their game. Example again, Rocket Racing. It should have just been a Mario Kart sort of game. And I understand it's called Rocket Racing, but it doesn't have to be just limited to only racing. It could be more than just that, because of course that eventually gets boring. And we all know how Mario Kart can be very iconic with its challenges and just how funny it is when you see gameplay of it. And then with Lego Fortnite, they don't have to add massive updates to it. They really don't. They just have to add small little updates to add more to the world and just expand more to it. Add more mobs, add more biomes, things like that. And not have to rely on the Lego Pass giving us more content, because that's all it really is, being able to build more because of the Lego Pass. At that point, it's just Minecraft that was, if it was owned by EA. And then Fortnite Festival, there's so many problems with it that should have been fixed from the beginning, and they haven't done, or just haven't added new things to it. Again, things like adding pro drums or pro vocals would be a good thing, because it adds more of a challenge to this game, which of course people like. I think at least most people like that, or at least some people like that. So at least it satisfies both, if people don't like it or just won't care, or people do like it and I guess just like it. And then adding or removing things like the wristband quest, which again I just don't understand why they did that. Because not only did the effect of not having to play Fortnite Festival anymore, because you could just play any other game mode to level up the festival pass, that removes the reason to actually play the game mode. And just removing the wristband quest is another reason to not play it anymore, because having those quests is fun because they're challenging and they're rewarding. And just removing those reasons to play the game just, of course, has less and less players to even bother playing the game. And with all the things that I've said, I'm just saying that I really do want these games to succeed. I really do. They don't have to be as good or, have more players than Battle Royale, because I highly doubt that will ever happen. I really do. Maybe at one point when it first released, like Lego Fortnite, when it had over 2 million players or something, like 1 million players, sure, that was good. But it doesn't have to be. It really doesn't. It's good for game modes to exist for specific communities. I think it really is good because then it adds more people to play from their games. Like, have specific communities from other games come into Fortnite and maybe be excited from what Fortnite releases for their specific game modes, if that makes sense. That's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed. I know I said a lot of, like, I messed up on a lot of things, and I probably should have mentioned better things as well, and I guess should have explained more things more better. But that's really all I wanted to say. Feel free to let me know what you think they could improve on, or if you think it's just a lost cause. I don't think it's a lost cause, but feel free to let me know what you think in the comments. That's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. See ya.